The division in the United States of America was on full display for hours upon hours yesterday in the U.S. House Oversight Committee's first impeachment inquiry hearing. And I tell you, I watched a good chunk of it, and a lot of it was, bickering back and forth about procedural issues. And, is this really an impeachment inquiry? Should there have been a full House vote on this? Can we please submit this to the record, submit this to the record, submit the same thing to the record over and over again? A lot of grandstanding, a lot of, various suppositions and different types of points made on either side. It was kind of in a way, I guess, if you watched any of it, it may have raised in you some regrets for all the division that there is in this country right now. But clearly, they're working to get to the bottom of what kind of evidence there may be linking President Joe Biden to his son Hunter's foreign business dealings, which the president has said time and again he has no knowledge of. But there's evidence suggesting that he is knowledgeable of it and benefited from it. So let's go ahead now hear what at least the opening statements were. All right. You had Republican Jim Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, laying out why they believe that the impeachment inquiry is going to lead to an ultimate impeachment vote and all of the evidence they say they have that's mounting up.
Since assuming our Republican majority in January, the House Oversight and Accountability Committee has uncovered a mountain of evidence revealing how Joe Biden abused his public office for his family's financial gain. For years, President Biden has lied to the American people about his knowledge of and participation in his family's corrupt business schemes. At least 10 times, Joe Biden lied to the American people that he never spoke to his family about their business dealings. He lied by telling the American people that there was an absolute wall between his official government duties and his personal life. Let's be clear, there was no wall. The door was wide open to those who purchased what a business associate described as the Biden brand. Evidence reveals that then Vice President Joe Biden spoke, dined, and developed relationships with his family's foreign business targets. These business targets include foreign oligarchs who sent millions of dollars to his family. It also includes a Chinese national who wired $250,000 to his son. Joe Biden also lied to the American people about his family making money in China. He continued to lie about it even when the House Oversight Committee uncovered bank wires, revealing how the Bidens received millions from Chinese companies with significant ties to Chinese intelligence and the Chinese Communist Party. Just this week, we uncovered 2 additional wires sent to Hunter Biden that originated in Beijing from Chinese nationals. This happened when Joe Biden was running for President of the United States, and Joe Biden's home is listed as the beneficiary address. To date, the House Oversight Committee has uncovered how the Bidens and their associates created over 20 shell companies, most of which were created when Joe Biden was vice president, and raked in over $20 million between 2014 and 2019. We've also identified 9 Biden family members who have participated in or benefited from these shady business schemes. Now, what were the Bidens selling to make all this money? Joe Biden himself. Joe Biden is the brand, and Joe Biden showed up at least 24 times with business targets and associates sending signals of access, influence, and power to those prepared to pay for it. The American people demand accountability for this culture of corruption. They demand to know how these schemes have compromised President Biden and threatened our national security. They demand safeguards to be put in place to prevent public officials from selling access to their public office for private gain. Under the leadership of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, House Republicans have now opened an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. By opening an impeachment inquiry, our investigation is now focused on whether President Biden engaged in impeachable offenses under the U.S. Constitution.
So that's a little bit of Comer's opening statements in the impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. And they say that, they're getting records that could help show whether or not money was personally transferred to the president, either directly or indirectly through shell companies. They also had witnesses there. Jonathan Turley, a constitutional law professional who says, they don't have the evidence there yet, but it's justified to have an impeachment inquiry, which could lead to that evidence because of subpoena power. So you've got records that, show a variety of things, including IRS whistleblowers testifying before Congress that Biden family and associates received more than $20 million from overseas entities, bank records, suspicious activity reports mounting. So a variety of different things that Republicans are saying are showing that the president, even as a candidate, even as a vice president, benefited from his son's shady business dealings. The Democrats, the House Republicans control that House committee, but they let Jamie Raskin go on for a good chunk of time. We're going to hear a lot of that coming back, just so that we hear both sides of this, right? The Republicans are like, we're getting evidence to show Biden is compromised, while they say they have the evidence showing that right now. Others saying, oh, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. This is just an impeachment inquiry to get even more evidence. But the Democrats, while the Republicans focus on Joe Biden, the Democrats are focused on Donald Trump, who's not in office right now. So stay tuned. We'll get to that next here on WMAY. All right. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. You can search Bishop on air, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Make it happen. All right. Hearing the opening statements from the Republican majority and the Democrat minority over at the U.S. House Oversight Committee's first impeachment inquiry hearing, where they had a panel. 3 seemed to be Republican choices. 1, I think, was there just so Democrats had somebody to ask questions to and make points to. So it was interesting. None of them being material witnesses, which Democrats pointed to time and again, despite Democrats, when they opened their first impeachment of former President Trump, didn't have any material witnesses up front. So we'll see if we get some material witnesses that Republicans ultimately call. But it was apparent that near the end of the hearing, Republican James Comer announced that he's issuing subpoenas for Hunter Biden's and James Biden's business and personal bank records. Republicans say that they have 150 suspicious activity reports involving Hunter and James Biden, as well as FBI confidential informant documents reporting a conversation in which a Ukrainian executive claims that Biden was performing a shakedown and that Biden was bribed. IRS whistleblowers also testified before Congress that the Biden family and associates received more than $20 million from overseas entities. Bank records released by the Oversight Committee show those payments came from around the world. What did Democrats have to say to open things up yesterday? Jamie Raskin, the minority spokesperson on the House Oversight Committee, the Republicans let him just have at it. So here's most of what Jamie Raskin had to say yesterday.
So let's get it straight. We're 62 hours away from shutting down the government of the United States of America, and Republicans are launching an impeachment drive based on a long debunked and discredited lie. No foreign enemy has ever been able to shut down the government of the United States, but now MAGA Republicans are about to do just that. But they don't want to cut off public services to the people and deny paychecks to more than 1 million service members without first launching an impeachment drive, even when they don't have a shred of evidence against President Biden for an impeachable offense. And you think I'm being harsh? Here's what some Republicans have had to say over the last week about the actions of the Republicans as they watch up close, quote, the dysfunction caucus at work, in the words of our GOP colleague from Nebraska, Don Bacon. Clown show, foolishness, terribly misguided, stupidity, failure to lead, lunatics, disgraceful, new low, pathetic, enabling Chairman Xi, people that have serious issues. Those folks don't have a plan, show just how broken they are, and individuals that just want to burn the whole place down. But I see a method in the madness. A week ago, Donald Trump posted a comment saying that a government shutdown, quote, is the last chance to defund these political prosecutions against me and other patriots. You get it? To delay justice, Donald Trump would cut off paychecks to a couple million service members and federal workers and furlough more than 1 million workers and pay them later for having not worked. Trump's convinced that if we shut the government down, his 4 criminal prosecutions on 91 different felony and misdemeanor charges will be defunded and delayed long enough to keep him from having to go before a jury of his peers before the 2024 election. And like flying monkeys on a mission for the Wicked Witch of the West, Trump's followers in the House now carry his messages out to the world: shut down the government, shut down the prosecutions. But the cult master has another command for his followers, which brings us here today. On August 27th, he posted this edict: either impeach the bum or fade into oblivion. They did it to us. Of course, the standard for impeachment is not whether they did it to us, but whether the president committed treason or bribery or other high crimes and misdemeanors. But the Constitution's irrelevant to them. What counts is what Donald Trump wants. There is, in fact, no evidence that Shokin was engaged in an investigation of Burisma or that Joe Biden's role in his firing was in any way connected to Burisma. He continued, what's missing, despite years of investigation, is the smoking gun that connects Joe Biden to his never-do-well son's corruption. It's scandalous to use impeachment to establish a counterfeit moral equivalence between President Biden, an honorable public servant who has never been indicted or convicted of anything in his career of more than 50 years in public life, and Donald Trump, a twice-impeached president who's recently been found in court to have sexually abused and defamed a woman and fraudulently inflated the value of his real estate properties while facing 91 criminal charges in 4 separate indictments on everything from conspiring to overthrow an election and defraud the American people to making criminal hush money payoffs to stealing classified government documents and hiding them while obstructing justice. Impeachment is the people's final weapon of constitutional self-defense against a president who behaves like a king and violates the public trust by committing treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors equivalent to them. It is reserved for extraordinary public offenses like inciting a violent insurrection against the American government and trying to overthrow our presidential election. That offense in 2021, whose related crimes have resulted in hundreds of criminal convictions and hundreds more being prosecuted, led to Donald Trump's second impeachment in the House on a massive bipartisan vote of 232 to 197 and a similarly lopsided bipartisan vote of 57 to 43 in the Senate. Mr. Chairman, if this dysfunction caucus is going to insist on going forward, we must receive the testimony of Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas, the insiders who know the origins of the lie upon which this sham impeachment is based and who work to spread it.
So Anthony on YouTube said earlier in the chat that he watched it, but he had to turn it off because it was just so frustrating. But now he says, watching that clown once was enough. Can you cut it short, Greg? Listen, Raskin went on for like 10 minutes. The Republicans allowed him to go on. But then if you watched most of the other parts of the hearing, it was just a bickering back and forth, disparaging of the professional witnesses that were there, and really a sad state of affairs when you sit back and watch it just from a nonpartisan lens. But you've got others saying this guy's full of it, others saying second that, blah, blah, blah. On a false premise you idiots made up. I'm surprised that all the stuff about Biden doing what he's always out of speaking to the U.S. I would think that he's awake doing this. So, yeah. Just a little sampling of the nearly 6-hour hearing yesterday, the first of the House Oversight Impeachment Inquiry. Now, Republicans argue the impeachment inquiry will help them get the answers and the documentation they need. Evidence has steadily been released, but even just this week, news broke that Hunter Biden received more than $250,000 in wire transfers from a Chinese nation wire that was actually addressed to Joe Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware. when he was running for president. So obviously some serious questions here. But the Democrats, they highlighted, hey, the President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, seems to have been doing the same type of thing. So should we investigate that? I mean, listen, Trump's not in office right now. Biden's in office right now. So that's what the focus of the impeachment inquiry is. But a lot of the Democrats that spoke, they diverted attention over to Donald Trump and highlighted a whole bunch of stuff. So there you go. Expect to hear a lot more about this, and they're going to have more hearings, I imagine, and we could see an impeachment vote in the months ahead, heading into the November 2024 general election. So things are going to be pretty contentious from here on out. Hopefully you are buckled in and ready for a ride.